You're watching the Retirement Halftime Show. I'm your host, Alexander Joyce, and of course with me is Andrea Morehead. She's our community impact anchor, and we are talking about the Vollmer family. You've had the opportunity to interview, Adrian, the family, Graham, if you will, and just what an inspiring story that really can touch the heart of other people. It's just thinking about our lives and how things can change so fast. Just kind of walk us through that.
Well, in fact, the number one cause of infant death is spinal muscular atrophy, as you mentioned, is known as SMA, and the Vollmer family from Westville, they have really been on the forefront of changing lives, and they really want to make sure that they're giving children across the state of Indiana a fighting chance.
It's pretty cool. Is that one of your favorite players?
Graham is so excited for football season. His favorite team, the Indianapolis Colts.
He loves sports. He loves football. He loves baseball. He wants to be with his friends. He loves to play Minecraft with his best friend, Annie. He loves to be outside. He loves to play with his dog, Howie. Oh, you like to call it Meancraft? Okay.
And like Colts quarterback Anthony Richardson.
Oh, you want me to throw a stylus?
Graham was born to lead. He's the youngest of 3 children.
We are just so blessed to have our time with Graham.
Diagnosed at 8 weeks old with a neurodegenerative disease, SMA, which stands for Spinal Muscular Atrophy.
It means that the spinal nerve cells don't actually speak to the muscles.
With reduced movement, Graham also has daily respiratory challenges.
When you have type 1 and you're diagnosed as a baby, typically that means that the disease progresses the fastest and can be fatal even as early as the age of 2.
But he's here.
That's right, and Graham's 8 years old, and he just turned 8 in May.
Oh, this is what life is going to look like. But he has exceeded everything that the doctors ever said. How does that make you feel?
It's pretty incredible. It's something that, while we try not to think too much about, it's hard not to. It's one of those things that we know why. We know why he's here is because of advances in medicine. As soon as there was a medical treatment for SMA, you better believe that we were on board. It's helped him gain and keep some of his strength.
Early intervention can dramatically improve a patient's life. But when Graham was born, there was no treatment, and there was no newborn screening in Indiana for SMA.
The state will typically not screen for something if there's not a treatment and not a cure for it, because there's nothing they can do for it.
But that changed thanks to their intentional and purposeful decision to help others.
There was a question of, what are we dealing with? Why is my child, struggling with this or that? I wanted them to be able to know with certainty a diagnosis and be able to seek treatment right away.
The Vollmers used their lives as a testimony, testifying before the Indiana legislature and urging it to include SMA on the newborn screenings list. Now, every baby born in Indiana is required to be screened for the disease. Graham's bill, House Enrolled Act 1017, went into effect April 1st of 2018.
Have you had families who've come to you and said, thank you?
I have. That's pretty cool.
Adrian sees the fruits of their labor and advocacy at the annual Cure SMA Walk for Graham. The nonprofit raises awareness and funds for research, treatment, and care programs. And as Indiana's chapter leader for the National Cure SMA organization, she's on the forefront of educating people about new clinical trials and FDA-approved treatments.
For some, like in a pre-symptomatic infant, it might completely stop the progression of the disease. It might mean that they don't ever show symptoms, which is incredible.
Did you ever think that you would be in a position to effect change the way that you and your family have?
I know that we won't stop, because for us, while treatments are giving Graham a better quality of life, that's not going to be good enough for me. So I'm not going to stop until we get a cure for him.
Amen. Your fundraising dollars are welcomed, along with volunteers to support various SMA programs. The Vollmers also want you to raise your voice to make a positive change in your community. It may feel daunting, but you never know how strong you are until being strong is the only choice you have.
What do you think you've learned the most about yourself and your family unit?
Being willing to like pivot.
Yeah.
And honestly, what I've been so impressed with is my older two children and their ability to adapt. We went to the movies it was myself and my mom, took Graham and my daughter to go see The Little Mermaid. And he really started not feeling well. Like his heart rate got really high. His oxygen levels weren't great. He was starting to, a lot of things were going south. I leaned over to my daughter and I was like, hey, I said, there's a really good possibility we're just gonna have to go home and come back and see this another time. And she was like, okay, that's okay,
That's
Mom.
okay.
And I was just like, I was really impressed with
Really
that.
impressed.
Her daughter Lucy crafted the sign, reminding their family and all who walk into their home not to count the days, but to make the days count with intention and purpose.
And you wake up every morning and you're just so grateful for it. What is that?
Well, besides this little guy, but just perspective on life. I think that's the biggest blessing for me. And that's what he's given to me. You want to be done?
You know what? Graham wants to be done. We're done.
Graham was indeed destined to be a leader.
Graham, what do
Thank
you
you.
think? Is there anything that you want to talk about?
I love it. He says, end scene.
Yeah.
I love it.
And we certainly thank the Vollmers for their dedication and their perseverance and for changing so many lives across the state of Indiana and really around the nation. And if you would like to learn more about the Vollmer family and their foundation, just go to our website at rejoycefinancial.com/Andrea.
Thank you, Andrea.
You're welcome.